welcome to the February 6th, 2024 Technical Committee meeting. Following direction of the BRTB, I'll ask that technical committee members turn on their cameras during the roll call for attendance and also for voting so that the public is clear about our membership. So the camera's on. I'll ask Ms. Rebecca Devil to start the roll call and determine member participation. Rebecca, are you there?
Yes, I am. Good morning.
Good morning.
City of Annapolis,
Present.
Anne Arundel County, Baltimore City, Baltimore
Present.
County. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank
Sorry.
you. No worries. Thank you. Baltimore County,
Here.
Carroll County, Harford County.
Claire is here from Carroll County.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. Harford County, Howard County,
Here.
Queen Anne's County, MDOT,
Here.
MDE,
Here.
MDP, MDOT, MTA, and MDOT SHA.
Here.
Thank you.
All right. All right, so we're gonna, first agenda item today is we're gonna ask for approval of the January minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? I assume you have. So can I please have a motion and a second to approve the minutes?
Howard County moves to approve.
Baltimore
No.
County seconds.
Okay, Howard County moved to approve, Baltimore second. I will now vote to approve the minutes. This time, I'll ask Rebecca to start the roll call again.
Annapolis,
Aye.
Anne Arundel County,
Aye.
Baltimore City,
Aye.
Baltimore County,
Aye.
Carroll County, Harford County.
Good morning, Harford County's here.
Thank you. Howard County,
Present. Or yes. Sorry.
Queen Anne's, and MDOT.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, the minutes were approved. Now we'll move on to the action items. Action item number 2. This resolution is considered the purpose and needs statement for the Bay Crossing project. I'll ask Ms. Heather Lowe and Ms. Melissa Williams to present information on the resolution. Heather, are you ready?
Yes, I need to stop screen sharing. And there you go. You can go ahead.
Okay, thanks so much. Let me get my screen shared. There it is. I'm sorry.
You got time. You got time. Thanks, Heather.
You're welcome. Can you see my presentation?
All good.
Awesome. Okay, great. Okay, well, good morning. Thanks so much for having us. I'm Heather Lowe. I'm with MDTA. I am the Planning and Community Relations Manager, and I'm joined today by my director, Melissa Williams, Director of the Division of Planning and Program Development. But I'm going to start off the presentation, and then Melissa's going to jump in. Let's see. So for the Bay Crossing study, we are following a tiered NEPA process to improve mobility, travel reliability, and safety at the existing William Preston Lane Jr. Bridge, or Bay Bridge. NEPA is the National Environmental Policy Act, and it requires any project receiving federal funding or approval to assess a project's potential impacts to the environment before taking action. Oops. Sorry, I went too far there. Let's see. So as maybe I didn't mention, we are following a tiered NEPA process. So tier 1 was completed in April of 2022. We completed an environmental impact statement for that study. And then tier 2 was initiated in June of 2022. So we're into the tier 2 study. We will also be completing an environmental impact statement for this study. So just a sort of a refresher about what we did during tier 1. We evaluated a range of corridors up and down the Chesapeake Bay, as shown here on the left graphic. Those corridors were narrowed down to 3 that best met the purpose and need from that range of 14 corridors. And then corridor 7 was selected. Corridor 7 is the corridor that contains the existing Bay Bridge. So now that we're in tier 2, as I mentioned, we initiated the study in June of 2022, and we are just past in between these numbers 2 and 3, where we initiated in summer 2022. We had a public open house in September 2022. We held another round of public open houses this past September and 2023, where we talked about our proposed or draft purpose and need and some alternative elements that we're looking at. So that's where we are. We have just, it feels like we just finished those meetings, but it has been a few months. We're continuing to develop and the purpose and need and working with the resource and regulatory agencies to move toward concurrence on that purpose and need. So as part of the study, as I mentioned, NEPA requires us to evaluate potential impacts as a result of our study. We're going to be completing many environmental analyses as shown on this slide, including air quality, noise, natural resources, socioeconomic and land use, indirect and cumulative effects, hazardous materials, and we have a couple that are new at this point to be separate technical studies. They will actually be separate technical reports. We're going to have an environmental justice and equity report and a greenhouse gas and climate change report. So getting around to the main purpose of our meeting today, the overall purpose and need, this is our proposed purpose and need, is to evaluate reasonable alternatives for providing adequate capacity and access to improve travel reliability, mobility, and safety across the Chesapeake Bay and along the US 5301 corridor. We will look at existing and potentially expanded transportation infrastructure to support additional capacity, improve travel times, accommodate maintenance activities, and improve navigational clearances. And we will also consider equity and environmental responsibility and cost and financial viability. So now I'm going to turn it over to Melissa Williams so that she can talk a little bit more about the purpose and need. Melissa?
Okay, thanks, Heather. As Heather said, just digging a little bit deeper into the needs for the project, looking at adequate capacity and reliable travel times. Oh boy, sorry. I'm apologizing in advance. Zoom is not liking the fact that I have 2 screens and it's doing some very interesting things for me this morning. So sorry about that. The current structures, the 2 bridges, the eastbound and westbound structures of the Bay Bridge simply do not have enough capacity to carry the number of vehicles that want to use the bridge. In the eastbound and westbound directions, in the summer, we can go from 2.5 mile backups to 8.5 mile backups. And these backups are not uncommon when we're talking about our peak periods in the summer. Heather, can you hit the next one for me, please? Okay, thank you. Concerning mobility, not only is the congestion on the Bay Bridge a problem, but because of the bridge itself, the parallel routes in communities end up having congestion as well. So as part of this study, we are looking at, as Heather said, the study corridor is from east of the Severn River Bridge to the 5301 split. We are looking at the main line of US 5301 and how diversion occurs, or how it occurs and how we can prevent that diversion from occurring. Heather, next. Yes. Safety. The existing bridges do not meet current standards for design or traffic operations. I say that, but I want to be really clear. That does not mean that the bridges are not safe. It means that they don't meet 2024 standards. So things like the lane widths aren't as wide as 2024 standards would require. And the fact that we don't have shoulders do not meet current standards. We know that the majority of our crashes do occur during summer months when congestion is the worst. And as we all know, with I'm going to say no shoulders, essentially, it's very difficult to address these larger scale issues, such as crashes. Next. Existing and future maintenance needs at the existing spans. We need to remember that the existing spans are aging. They are showing their wear. They are in a very difficult location weather-wise. And looking at the amount of maintenance that the two bridges will need in the future, it's exponentially increasing. So as we look at studying a crossing of the bridge, we need to keep in mind that the existing bridges are costing MDTA more and more money, literally exponentially, as time moves forward. Next. Navigational clearance. The existing Bay Bridge is a limitation for ships traveling to the Port of Baltimore. MDTA is working with the Port of Baltimore to determine a height that would be more acceptable to them in the future if we indeed do look at a bridge crossing for this location. Next. As Heather said, we have our needs, and then we have our additional considerations, objectives. These are equally important, and we want to stress how important they are to the project here. Looking at equity and environmental responsibility, equity is I would say a hot word these days, but to explain what equity means to this project, we're not just looking at the end result or the outcome of the project, but we're looking at the entire study, ensuring that we are getting input from all of our stakeholders, specifically traditionally underserved communities, throughout the process, making sure that we are meeting with them and hearing their needs and incorporating that into the project as we move forward. Of course, all of the build alternatives will be designed to minimize impacts to our communities, as well as our very sensitive environmental resources in this area. Concerning the cost and financial viability, obviously this is a very expensive project. Excuse me. So as I said before, we're not just looking at new construction, we are looking at the existing structures and how they could or would, are functioning right now and how our costs will continue to increase in the future on those existing structures. So that is part of the cost of the project. We need to make sure that we don't think no build means no expenditure. No build would include that ever increasing expenditure on the existing bridges. Next. As Heather said, our most recent round of public meetings was this past fall. Doesn't seem that long ago, but it was September of 2023. We had 3 meetings. I would say the meetings were very successful. We started with 2 in-person meetings on each side of the bridge and then finished it off with a virtual open house. We received we had an awful lot of comments, over 600 survey responses. And I think most important is that we have over 2,700 people on the mailing list who we will continue to keep in touch with and inform about additional future upcoming meetings. Next. Current study activities. We're currently working on our traffic analyses. All of our existing traffic has been collected, and we are now basically working with the traffic models, looking at doing environmental field work, which will be kicking off heavily in the spring. And I think the most exciting is we are currently developing our conceptual alternatives. So in September of last year, we showed basically our criteria for what we would be looking at to develop alternatives. And we're now at the point where we are putting lines on paper. So that's kind of exciting. It's always that next step when you can see lines on paper. That's very meaningful. We're currently looking to obtain concurrence from the agencies on purpose and need, moving forward with environmental studies, the notice of intent for the EIS. And as always, throughout the entire project, we will be continuing our public engagement and stakeholder engagement efforts. Next. So I would like to conclude there, but I would like to open for questions. And of course, invite Heather to join me.
Hi, I had a question if that's okay.
Of course.
Hi, this is really interesting. This is definitely a problem, so I'm happy that like this is being studied. I was curious about the clearance limit heights for ships. And I was just curious if it was possible or if it's expected that like more ships are going to be in the Port of Baltimore.
Yeah.
Yeah, just increased marine traffic, I guess.
It is anticipated that larger ships, meaning taller ships,
Mhm.
would desire to go into the Port of Baltimore if they were able to. And the bay bridges are an impediment to that. In order to allow those larger bridges, we would need to raise the vertical clearance by approximately 32 feet. So that's not something that we could take the existing bridges and retrofit them. 32 feet is huge. You can't jack a structure 32 feet. So it would be a consideration for a new crossing.
Okay. Is there any way to calculate possible air quality impacts of that?
Of the height?
Of increased ship traffic, if possible.
Oh,
I'm
of
just
the increased
spitballing
ship
here.
traffic.
Yeah, I don't know how like standardized that information
That's
is,
a
but I
great
was curious.
question. My answer would be we will certainly look into it, unless Heather, I'll defer if you have anything to add on that.
That is a great question, and it's the first time that I've heard that
Yeah.
so far. And we'll have to look into that. I would think that we would discuss it in the indirect and cumulative effects analysis, but I'll definitely be sure to bring that up with the team and let them know we need to look into that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you for
awesome.
that question. That's
Absolutely.
No, thank you for looking into that.
you hit an original.
Yeah.
Okay, at this point, Dan, could you ask for a motion in a second? Then I know Michael wants to leave. Perhaps we take his comment and then see if any other members have comments or questions.
Okay, you want to ask for the motion first. So
Yes.
I'll ask for a member to move for approval of resolution 2414 and then a second, and then we'll ask to see if there's any follow-up questions.
Annapolis moves.
Okay. Second.
Hartford County seconds.
Thank you, Sam. County second. All right, now again, so let's ask if any members of the public have any questions, and then we'll go right back to the tech committee members if there are any follow-ups. Anybody from the public?
Yep, I'd like to make a comment if I could.
Okay, go ahead, Michael.
Sure.
And please introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Michael Stepanek. I live in Cockeysville, and I'm with Strong Towns Baltimore, but I wouldn't consider this to be an official statement on behalf of the group. So with regards to 2414, so the resolution makes reference to federal requirements that the congestion management process shall provide an appropriate analysis of reasonable, including multimodal, travel demand reduction, and operational management strategies for the corridor. So when analyzing travel demand reduction with this study, I urge you to please take a wider view than you may not be used to taking. I may be misunderstanding or oversimplifying the situation, but it seems to me that the demand we are looking to satisfy with the new crossing, it seems like the wild card, or maybe it's largely driven by residential growth in Queen Anne's County and the commuter traffic it's generating. So when the existing two Bay Bridge spans were conceptualized and built, I doubt that the goal was to satisfy or spur a significant amount of commuter traffic. Rather, I suspect it was to facilitate tourist traffic to the Eastern Shore and commercial traffic, largely from agricultural producers to the Western Shore. And while I'm sure those goals are still in the mix here, and I strongly suspect that it is commuter traffic that's proving to be the driving factor behind the demand for a third span, I think it's fair to say that if it wasn't for the existing spans, residential development in Queen Anne's County would be a fraction of where it currently stands. As such, we can clearly see that the bridges induced that development and therefore demand for a third span and the attendant highway infrastructure. This is what induced demand looks like, and a third span will simply continue it. So the question is, should we continue? So given the daunting price tag this project is sure to come with, I think it's fair to question if that residential growth we have induced, where we have induced it, is worth the cost. I guess I just asked, do these sorts of studies ever spend any time analyzing that sort of question? And if not, this one must. The natural starting point for an analysis focused on reducing travel demand is to understand how we have currently been inducing it. And as part of the presentation that Heather and Melissa gave regarding the resolution, regarding land use, I saw mention of potential impacts to land use, communities, and community facilities. And this really must factor in the residential growth that a third span will induce. Land use is inextricably intertwined with transportation. The policies for each feed into each other. And with this study, please make sure that we take a hard and honest look at how past choices have generated a demand for a third span and how a third span will inevitably induce more demand for initial spans in the future.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Michael. I appreciate it. Melissa, you can comment now, or if you wish to respond later.
I'll just comment real quick. That's a lot. I'm gonna kind of skinny it up just a little and just give a little bit of a response, if that's okay. Yes, absolutely. We are looking at induced demand. We are aware we are looking at that. We are looking at TSM TDM options that we can take, that we can use. We are looking at transit. We have, in my opinion, some kind of exciting possible transit ideas in the area. But I'm going to take a step back from that and say that where all of this comes from is realizing the traffic issues, but also looking at a life cycle cost analysis of these structures. And that's where I made the comment that our costs to keep these structures safe and to keep them open is exponentially increasing. So what that means is right now we have 5 lanes. We have 3 lanes in one direction, 2 in the other, or whichever way you want to do it, contraflow or no contraflow. We're working literally every day of the year that we can work to keep the bridges up and in good shape and running. Realizing this, with additional maintenance needs in the future, we're not talking about having the same 5 lanes in the future. We're talking about potentially having less available capacity to be used by the public, not just in off-peak times like it is now, but in the future, it could spread into peak hours, into more heavily traveled hours. So that factors in also to the fact that these bridges will not last forever. So part of the project is truly just understanding, when are we putting, so to say, good money at bad, and when do we reach a point when these bridges just can't keep doing what they're doing and maintaining the same amount of capacity for travelers.
That's very helpful.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Melissa.
Thanks.
All right, thank you, Melissa. Okay, I got it. So do we have any other members of the public that have any questions or comments? Is there anybody in the chat box?
No, there isn't.
Okay, thanks, Regina.
Steve, I believe, has a question or a comment.
And we're going to turn it over to the technical committee members. Do you have any follow-up questions? Steve?
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to touch on one of the items we've commented on as a county is the projected volumes and the increase in projected volumes on the bridge. And this is a comment we've made. On a large project like this, where it takes many years to get through the NEPA process, then it's going to take years to get through design, years to get through construction. We're not looking at an opening date for this facility for many years. And the traffic projections we're using and we're looking at go out to 2045, which is the current modeling that is in place. We do have a concern that we might be in 2030 or 2040s when the facility opens, and we haven't accounted for the increase in volume over the life cycle of the new base span. So that's a comment we've made. It's a concern of ours that if the project does move forward, if construction of a new facility comes in, that it does have adequate capacity or adequate flexibility and design built in so that we have the capacity. Having transit lanes, to preserve that capacity is a good idea. Looking at how flexibility for contraflow can be built into the facility now, so that can work to help expand the life of the facility and the volumes the bridge can carry. Having that flexibility in design is important, but also we think it's important to try to project further out than just 2045. So that's one comment on the projections. And just a comment on to let you know, Queen Anne's County is a county of 50,000 residents. We're the smallest. We're a very small county in comparison to the Western Shore counties. We do anywhere from 100 building permits a year to 400 building permits a year compared to the thousands of units that each of the urban counties on the Western Shore do. And when we're looking at demand and use of this facility, I kind of struggle with the concept that the 50,000 residents in Queen Anne's County generate the 28 million trips crossing the bridge every year. I just think that's kind of not quite accurate. And I think, looking at the number of building permits issued down at the beach, issued throughout the Eastern Shore that use this corridor, looking at the Middletown bypass and the amount of trips coming down 301 that are starting to use it as an alternative to I-95 is another contributing factor. I think it's much more regional than just Queen Anne's County commuters, and I think I needed to get that on the record after hearing comments that we were the driving force. We do need the facility. We have grown some because of the facility, but our building permits and our growth is far less than some of the other jurisdictions and the region that utilize this facility. So that's just a comment on behalf of our jurisdiction. The back to the original point on the projections, is there any way to build in additional projections?
So First, thank you for your comments, and thank you to you and Queen Anne's County. Of course, you've been working very closely with us and providing us with these comments as we move forward. So nothing you said is new to us, but I'm grateful to hear that you're continuing to work with us on these things. Concerning the projected traffic, yes, you are correct. 2045 is the year that we are looking at. We are required to use the approved MPO model, which is the Maryland statewide model, which at this time is capable of projecting to 2045. We are trying to look a little beyond that, not in the formal document, because we have to use the approved model, but we have looked at, well, where will growth continue? And one of the key things that we've realized is that we need to keep in mind that it's not an unconstrained network, it is constrained, and the adjacent infrastructure has to be able to keep up with the capacity of the bridge as well. So we've looked a little bit at the adjacent infrastructure and what we foresee beyond 2025 in the adjacent infrastructure as well. And I think that kind of starts it tightens up the growth that the bridge can see based on what can get to it. So that's the piece where we're feeling a little bit more confident with the numbers. As you said, realizing that it will take several years to build a new crossing.
All right, some good back and forth, and I appreciate it all. There's going to be a lot of opportunities, I think, to look at the studies and bring it back maybe for a longer discussion. Maybe we devote an entire technical committee meeting to this project at some point, and along with the other business. So, but I'll welcome the public comments and welcome the technical committee comments. So, I don't see anybody else with their hand raised. Do you, Regina?
No, I do not.
Okay, thanks. So let's vote on the resolution and consider the purpose and need statement for the Bay Crossing project. When your name is read, please indicate aye or nay. And Rebecca, can you please read down the list of members?
Annapolis,
Aye.
Anne Arundel County,
Aye.
Baltimore City,
Aye.
Baltimore County,
Aye.
Carroll County,
Aye.
Harford County,
Aye.
Howard County,
Aye.
Queen Anne's County,
Aye.
and MDOT.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to action item number 3. This resolution is to approve the quadrennial update to the Title VI program. Hope everybody's had time to read the background material. We've got a presentation here real quick.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be advancing it that fast.
So it's not my notes, but I guess this is who's doing this presentation?
I am. Oh, I keep advancing it. I'm sorry. This is Regina.
Thank you,
and I'm going to move a little bit quickly, but I certainly do not want to give short shrift to Title VI. We update this program every 4 years, and then in the intermediary years, we just do an annual report. So this year, it is a full update. And as you know, Title VI is based on the Civil Rights Act, and it is targeted at discrimination and not excluding individuals from participation or the benefits of our programs and policies. So the Title VI policy is, this one is written by BMC, and BMC assures that we will include and will not exclude in the distribution of federal funds. So specifically in this document, the real core to this is the policy statement and assurances. In addition, there is a Title VI notice. That notice is on all of our agendas. It's on our website. It is posted in our conference rooms. And there is a complaint form available in English and Spanish, should anyone need to use it. Sort of part of, but independent of the Title VI program are also the Public Participation Plan, Limited English Proficiency Plan, our Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program, and Americans with Disabilities Act. Those are documents that we update on rotating years, but are included with the Title VI notice. And this document also talks about staff training and hiring practices. So what kind of updates were made? We've had some staff turnover. Our new Title VI coordinator, program administrator is Sheila Mahoney. Under the general requirements in this document that you had sent out, we did reflect that the public participation plan had been updated, and we gave a summary of outreach efforts. And then another section, and this refers to a checklist of what needs to be included under the MPO specific requirements. We've updated the demographic profile, and you can see which pages. All of this is new, and it's based on work we did with the most recent TIP and Resilience 2050. The mobility needs of minority populations on the tip. Then we go back to demographic maps for the tip. Then we show mobility needs of minority populations in the plan, and then an analysis of transportation system investments. I want to give a shout out to Zach Kaufman. Zach helped me greatly with this section. It is based on work in Resilience 2050. We also, at this time, a much smaller document, but associated with Title VI, updated the Americans with Disabilities Act. It is a self-evaluation, and the evaluation is divided into 3 parts. It looks at policies and practices, the physical premises, and the BMC website. And I will say under the website, we check for 508 compliance, and there are a few updates that we need to make, and that will be made, we can start on some, but we are looking to update our website in the coming year. And I believe that's all. So I know I kind of went through that, but if once we get a motion in a second, and if anybody has any questions, I will answer.
Okay, I hope everybody's had a chance to review the Title VI program documents that were attached to this resolution. And without any questions right now, we're going to go ahead and ask that a member move for approval of Resolution 2415 and then a second. Can I have a motion for approval?
Yeah, Akuhi Annapolis moved.
Thank you, Kwaku.
And Queen Anne's County will second.
All right, do we have any technical committee members have any questions or comments about the resolution? And now ask if any members of the public have any questions. I see Sam has a question.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm sorry, 508 compliance. I'm not an expert in this. What is 508 compliance?
That refers to a section in federal law that relates to ADA accessibility on a website. And
Okay.
the sort of the shorthand lingo is 508 compliance. And it is, so for instance, if you have an image or a map, you should have a caption with it so that someone using a reader that can't see, there's an explanation of what that map is. It's that type of thing that we look for.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Thank you for that. And then the other question I have is, and I tried to read through this, and I apologize if maybe it was in here and it didn't sink in. So in the first, see on this presentation or this attachment I have here on page 4, it's the purpose of the plan. Then it explains Title VI requires that no person in the USA shall, on the grounds of race, color, national origin. And then beneath that, it says additional protections are provided in other federal and state authorities. So we adopt the additional protections or just Title VI? Because it talks about the protections in Title VI, and then I know that there are other protected classes is probably the right word, that are elsewhere in federal and state law, like Title VI is the bare minimum, and then other statutes are more. So is the plan is just for the protected classes under Title VI, or for the additional protections in the other federal and state authorities that was referenced here.
I believe this is targeted at Title VI.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I was just trying to, I'm not an expert in this. I was trying to learn a little bit more. I appreciate it.
No, great question. Thank you.
Yeah, it looks like that's the official purpose of this. And then, of course, all these other protections are sort of built into the program here. Okay, do we have anybody in the chat box with any comments, Regina?
No.
Okay, so we'll now vote to approve the quadrennial update to the Title VI program. When your name is read, please indicate aye or nay. Rebecca, please read that list of members.
Annapolis,
Aye.
Anne Arundel County,
Aye.
Baltimore City,
Aye.
Baltimore County,
Aye.
Carroll County,
Aye.
Harford County,
Aye.
Howard County,
Aye.
Queen Anne's County,
Aye.
and NDOT.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Okay, it's time for recommended action on resolution 2416. This resolution involves a request to amend the TIP from the city of Aberdeen for a TOD grant for the Aberdeen train station. Looks like Mr. Keith Kucharek will introduce the amendment, and then we'll turn it over to Ms. Phyllis Grover from the city of Aberdeen. Phyllis, welcome, and thank you, Keith.
Okay, thank you, Dan. As Dan did mention on resolution 24-16, Harford County, on behalf of the city of Aberdeen, is requesting to amend the 2024 to 2027 TIP to add one new project. The Aberdeen Transit Oriented Development Station Square project will add $5 million worth of Federal Transit Administration community project funding in FY24. And that money will be used for the demolition of an existing structure, engineering for plans for a pedestrian underpass, and engineering for 2 new bus bays at the Aberdeen train station. This amendment will be presented to the ICG tomorrow, so we anticipate them designating this as an exempt project. And as Dan mentioned, Ms. Phyllis Grover from the city of Aberdeen will present the details of this project. Phyllis?
Good morning, everyone. Phyllis Grover, Director of Planning, Community Development for the City of Aberdeen. I'll be brief. I know that you have a big agenda. Talking about the Station Square Improvement Project, which is part of our Aberdeen Transit-Oriented Development Area. The train station, so this project is adjacent to the current Aberdeen train station, which provides rail service along the Northeast Corridor, with Amtrak, MARC, Norfolk Southern, and CSX. It's a real unique situation there to Aberdeen because Amtrak does own the train station, the tunnels. The Maryland Department of Transportation and the State Highway Administration owns the pedestrian and vehicular overpasses. The Maryland Department of Transportation, MTA, manages the train station, the tunnel, security and maintenance of the facility, and several of the parking areas. And it's also adjacent to Aberdeen Proving Ground, and they own a portion of APG Road, which services the rear of the train station on East Beller Avenue. The train station is in the middle of our downtown, located off of a federal highway and a state highway. And it really serves as a transportation hub regionally for Harford County, Baltimore, and Cecil County. You'll see the ridership stats there that we received. They're not updated. We've been trying to receive updated numbers, but that's what we have currently. Also, the Transit Link, the Harford County Transit Link bus service provides daily commuter service, and it's the highest used bus stop in Harford County with 7,500 monthly riders. This is an illustration from our TOD master plan that was adopted by our mayor and council in 2012. The station area itself was designated by Governor O'Malley in 2010. We did multiple studies since 2012, and it's also a sustainable community designation area. And this illustration here shows the Station Square pedestrian underpass off of Route 40. Next. And this is some of the challenges that we have. The existing pedestrian overpass, which is photographed here, serves as a barrier to the community that lives on the east side of the station. There's only two ways to get from east to West Beller Avenue. One is this pedestrian overpass. The other one is the tunnel. And the tunnel, you have to access it through stairs. The pedestrian overpass has a 1,100 square foot switchback, as well as the tunnel or the pedestrian overpass. You'll see there that goes over the Amtrak Railroad. The existing train station sits to the right of this pedestrian overpass, and it is really a barrier that separates not only the community, but also it's a physical barrier, and it has a lot of challenges. The bus link that I was talking about, the bus stop that the Hartford Transit Link stops at daily, is photographed here as well. It's very highly used, but you'll see that this concrete structure was built in 1982 by the State Highway Administration. And it has created all types of barriers, not only socioeconomic, but racial disparity as well. And this has amplified the situation. The Station Square vision is to remove that pedestrian overpass that was photographed and create a pedestrian underpass. The train station here would remain in its current location. We're not proposing any changes to the existing train station itself, but we want to provide ADA accessibility to the station and make that physical connection for our community through this safe, well-lit, terraced pedestrian underpass, which includes the removal of the overpass, the removal of the Exxon station there that exists, and create that safe environment that's ADA accessible. This is another illustration showing the pedestrian underpass on the east side, which provide areas also for stop and go for bus service, as well as for the train service. As Keith and Keith mentioned earlier, the city did receive a grant in the amount of $4 million, an earmark in December of 2022. And we have been working with MDOT and MTA to administer and manage these funds for the city of Aberdeen. We recognize that the project that we're talking about is, and this is estimated a $55 million project. As part of that, the city since 2012 has acquired 6 properties in our TOD area where we've land banked those properties now for the future of the Station Square project. 6 of those properties are within the Station Square project, so we wouldn't have to purchase additional land. We recognize we would have to purchase right away. And of course, the Exxon station at some point when future funding is secured. We are really anxious to get started in the NEPA process with the state and look at environmental studies as the next step as well. And our request is to be added and amend the TIP to include our project. Next. We have been really diligent in applying for additional federal funds through the U.S. Department of Transportation, through the Reconnecting Communities, RAISE, and CRISI. We recently applied for the All Stations Accessibility Grant, and I think the end of February we'll be applying again for the RAISE funds.
Okay.
And with that, I know I was very quick with this, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have on the Station Square project.
Thank you, Phyllis. First, before we go to questions, Going to ask for a member to move for approval of resolution 2416 and then a second. Do we have a motion to approve this? resolution?
Hartford County moves.
Thank you, Sam. Move second.
Baltimore County seconds.
Great. And thanks for the presentation, Phyllis. This is amazing work you're doing there, and you got to be commended for all of the grants and other opportunities you guys are going after and not letting slip by. And you know, it's right on the I-95 corner, and it's great to see these potential improvements coming finally to the city. Waited a long time, done a lot of work. So I just want to say that first. Do we have any technical committee members that have any questions or comments on the resolution or presentation that Phyllis gave us? And is there any members of the public that have any questions or comment, Regina?
No, but I do see two hands up.
Oh, I see. Okay, Daniel, why don't we go with you first? First hand I see here.
Hi there. Thank you. Daniel Pascal with the East Coast Greenway Alliance. Thank you for the presentation. I've been working in the area for a little while, but am less familiar with this corridor, but I'm becoming more familiar. I actually had a meeting recently with a number of members of the East Coast Greenway Maryland State Committee looking at the corridor along US 40, especially because of the recent shared use path study connecting Havre de Grace to Aberdeen. And I was curious about the potential for this TOD to connect into that path. And sorry if I missed it in the presentation, but also wanted to note that, you know, as we look at the East Coast Greenway potential, which is a 3,000 mile long trail from Maine to Florida in development, that this could be a potential routing and alignment for that greenway. So just, yeah, go ahead.
Dan, is it okay to answer the question?
Yes.
Okay. Daniel, thank you so much for that. And thank you for recognizing the importance of that pathway, the joint use pathway, what we're talking about now between Havre de Grace and Aberdeen. And I know that Keith Kuchurk did do some work on that as well prior to this. And the city is working closely with Havre de Grace and the town of Bel Air. We just received a small US DOT grant to actually look at improving pedestrian and bicycle safety. And that this is one of the intersections that we're talking about. The pathway is part of that process, is part of the one of the areas they're going to be looking at. So they're not only looking at our TOD and our Station Square improvement plan, but they're also going to incorporate in their action plan. That's what they're tasked with doing, the consultant EXP US Services, including the shared use pathway. Since this has a regional approach, and this is the highest transit stop for the Link bus service, it's really important to improve the safety there at that intersection. And we do have a public workshop that's coming up on February the 13th. We encourage you to come and attend that at Aberdeen City Hall from 6:30 to 8:30. That information is on our website. Would really like to hear your comments and support, because we really need to have that going in the right direction with funding in the next state and the next phase. So thank you. It's not an oversight on our part at all. We want to include that in any future plans.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for that information.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. We have any other questions out there? Okay, we'll now vote on approval to amend the tip from the city of Aberdeen for a TOD grant for the Aberdeen train station. When your name is read, please indicate aye or nay. Rebecca, can you please read down the list of members?
Annapolis,
Aye.
Anne Arundel County,
Aye.
Baltimore City,
Aye.
Baltimore County,
Aye.
Carroll County,
Aye.
Hartford County,
Aye.
Howard County,
Aye.
Queen Anne's County,
Aye.
and MDOT.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, we're gonna go to item number 5 now, UPW activities. Looks like Todd's gonna join us to summarize the budget for the draft FY25 UPWP addendum and technical committee consideration to release for a 30-day comment period. Todd?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Todd Lang here. Just want to remind everyone who's joining us for the Congestion Management Committee meeting. You'll be starting immediately after this item. So today I'm here in front of the Technical Committee with our ongoing discussion about the update to the fiscal year 2025 Unified Planning Work Program. Just quick reminders, in April of 2023, we adopted a 2-year work program, and we're here today to look at the addendum to update the budget and the focus areas for fiscal year 25. We've been discussing this for a number of different meetings of the Technical Committee. Today, as Dan had mentioned, we would like to request the Technical Committee approve a release for 30-day public review of the draft addendum to the fiscal year 2025 Unified Planning Work Program, with the final vote for this in April of 2024. Next slide, please. Very quickly, we estimated the funds are going to be available for us with, we think, appropriations of about $8.5 million, carryover about $2.1 million, have a little over $10.6 million available to us. Next slide, please. We've looked at programming the 12 focus areas, actually 13 focus areas that were discussed at the last Technical Committee meeting in January. Again, supporting staff for discretionary grants, lots scenario planning, a lot of different items that have been requested by the members. This table should look very familiar to you. It's the same one that was presented in January. Next slide, please. We have about $10.6 million available. We are programming just a little under that. We're keeping about $70,000 available to us, which is less than 1%, just in case there's any changes to appropriations or carryover. And next slide, please, does a quick wrap up of identifying the staff resources that would be available, and then the local share, again, at $60,000 per jurisdiction to assist us with different regional planning activities. So with that, Mr. Chair, we are asking if the Technical Committee, through consensus, you don't have to go through a formal vote, you could just ask to see, are there any objections to putting out this program for a 30-day public review, or any quick last-minute changes that we could do? I'll turn it back to the chair.
Thank you, Todd. Okay, with that, are there any objections to forwarding this item to the BRTB for consideration at their February meeting?
Actually, Mr. Chair, sorry, this is for release on a 30-day public review.
30-day public review, right, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification.
There's nobody in the chat box. I don't see any raised hands. Are any members have comments?
Okay, thank you very much. We will take that as consensus to move forward with the draft UPWP. And again, we will summarize any comments we receive from the public and also from the members. Thank you very much. And we'll turn it back to the chair so you can wrap this up and hand it back to the Congestion Management Committee. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Todd. Hopefully we'll get your letter to you soon. Hearing no other business, the next Technical Committee meeting will be virtual on Tuesday, March 5th. Is there any other business to come before the Technical Committee? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion and a second to close the meeting. Can I have a motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Steve. Ms. County, motion to close the meeting.
Second, Annapolis.
All right, and